What have we just witnessed, fellas? UFC 323 just wrapped up, and it was a generational pay-per-view, one of the, if not the best card I have ever seen. And look, I'm not going to lie to you boys, I was like trying to build a bit of hype for this card, but I had a sneaky feeling it'd be a bit of a snoozer and a bit of a disaster. But boy, was I wrong. What a card. Oh my goodness. Top to bottom, all action, insane wars, crazy results and upsets, finishes in heaps of the fights, absolute back and forth wars. The main event was insane. This was a generational pay-per-view, and there's so much to talk about. I'm not going to waste your time with pleasantries, fellas. I'll give you the main talking points, and then we'll dive into all the action, fight by fight. I'll go through the whole thing and tell you what I thought about each one of the fights. I don't even know where to start. Myron Santos gets a sick highlight reel KO over Muhammad Naimov in round 3 after a pretty mid-fight, to be honest. Mansur Abdul-Malik with a slick, easy round 1 guillotine finish over Antonio Trocoli. Ebo versus Iwo, bro. Probably the sickest one-round fight of all time. Violence per second ratio out of this world. Just an unbelievable one-round fight. Crazy stuff. Jalen Turner executes Edson Barboza. That was pathetic matchmaking, that. Faraz Ziam pitches a shutout against Nazim Sadykhov and makes a statement in the lightweight division. Chris Duncan and Terrence McKinney have one of the funniest, most hilarious fights of all time. Duncan gets it done there to cash that lock. Manuel Torres obliterates Grant Dawson in the first round. Like I said, it would happen. There's a controversial draw between Jan Blachowicz and Bogdan Guskov. We have the passing of the torch moment from Cejudo to Talbott in Henry Cejudo's retirement fight. Pretty heartwarming, moment and a solid performance from Peyton Talbott. We'll talk about that one. Tatsuro Taira has a controversial, somewhat early stoppage win over Brandon Moreno. Some people are calling that one an early stoppage. I kind of disagree, to be honest, but it's a great performance from Taira and a title shot earning performance for sure. Then before the co-main, UFC dropped the whole card of UFC 325 in Sydney, Australia, and it is a heater as well. Dan Hooker versus Benoit Saint-Denis announced for the co-main event, and Rafael Fiziev versus Mauricio Hufi is on there. Tuivasa versus Teixeira, Jimmy Crute versus Dustin Jacoby. The whole card got dropped. I'll make a video about that one tomorrow, maybe. Joshua Van out-grapples Pantoja, throws him to the ground with complete disdain and finishes him by TKO in round 1. Nah, I'm kind of joking about that one. Pantoja breaks his arm in round 1, and Joshua Van is the new flyweight champion in the world. What a sport we have here. And then Petr Yan in the main event puts on one of the best turnaround comeback performances of all time. Looks like an absolute world beater and shuts down Merab the Machine Dvalishvili, pieces him up and wins almost every round, despite Merab doing the exact same style of fighting that he always does. But Petr Yan figured out the puzzle of Merab, and wow, what a performance from Petr Yan. He's the new bantamweight champion. Great fight, that one as well. So many good fights to talk about. Let's jump into Merab versus Yan. Wow. Petr Yan, what a guy. This guy is back on top of the world, and it feels great. Look, I'm a massive Merab fan, and I locked Merab. So did half the world, probably so did almost everybody. But Petr Yan proves himself to be one of the GOATs at bantamweight as well. Turns the whole thing on its head and hurts Merab multiple times over the fight, outstrikes him, leaves the fight with Merab looking like a bloody mess, and Petr Yan with barely a scratch on him, and he wins 49-46. One judge had it 48-47, but I scored the fight 49-46 for Petr Yan. And he just pieced up Merab on the feet. His takedown defense was phenomenal. And Merab had nothing. And it feels crazy to say that, but Merab had nothing for Petr Yan. Petr Yan just sat there calm as anything, just kind of high guard, holding his hand out like this, and just landed the cleanest shots across all the rounds. I think I gave round 2 to Merab, but Petr Yan won every other round. And look, Merab won big sections of this fight, and he did his thing. A lot of this fight looked very similar to their first fight, but Petr Yan just found the shots that mattered. He hurt Merab to the body multiple times with kicks and punches. He landed head kicks. He broke Merab's nose. They were talking about maybe he had a broken jaw as well. Merab was bleeding all over the shop, and he got no takedowns. And Petr Yan actually got the first takedown of the fight cleanly on Merab, and it was even though the fight was very similar, it was also very, very different. It was almost like the same fight, but instead of Yan just missing all his shots, he landed absolutely everything clean and got the damage that he needed to win 4 of the rounds. You could even make an argument that he won round 2 as well. It was, wow, I did not see that coming whatsoever. He even picked up Merab and dunked him on his head at one point. But the body work was so clean from Petr Yan, and that's what won him the fight. He hurt Merab, I think, twice or maybe 3 times with body shots, and Merab has that really obvious tell when he's hurt. He goes, ah! And then he like kind of skates around the outside of the octagon and just backs up, and you can't give a round to Merab with his style of fighting when Yan is that locked in and doing damage like that. And come the end of round 4, I had Yan up 3 rounds, and I, you know, most of the time you still give guys a chance to finish, but Merab doesn't have finishing potential, and you could tell in this fight that he had no hope of finishing Petr Yan. Petr Yan just kept himself so safe, and it was over after round 4 because Merab didn't have a chance to finish him. And Merab is still the bantamweight GOAT, and he's absolutely wild, and he's a machine, but he's not a finisher. And if he can't, assert his dominance, and if he can't impose his will, as Lucas would say, he can't win. And that's a crazy thing to say, that it was like Merab had no path to victory against Petr Yan. What a fucking wild world we live in here, boys. But sick performance from Petr Yan. I'm stoked with this fight, how it went. Like, even though I locked Merab and I look like an idiot probably no one's going to call me an idiot for picking Merab, but kind of feel like an idiot for picking Merab when Yan was that good. But, dude, Yan, what a fucking performance, and what a turnaround. And geez, he must have been putting in some work behind the scenes in the last couple of years. The signs were there, boys. He was doing great work this year in bantamweight. He's put himself in contention for fighter of the year this year. That's one of the biggest. That is the biggest win of his career, and it's the best performance of his career. He looked like just himself, but on roids, and just like not really, but he looked like a pure, unfiltered version of himself, and he just kept safe, stayed composed, and pieced up Merab. And holy dooly, boys, that was fucking sick. 49-46 for 2 judges, 48-47 from 1. Who saw that coming, lads? Yan by points. What a fight. These boys, both absolute warriors, and, all credit and respect to Merab. He's a legend. He took it on the chin. He was humble. He said, look, Yan was the better fighter tonight. Joe Rogan was trying to pre-bake in excuses for him, and comes in and goes, you do a really hard weight cut. Like, what's your excuse? And Merab's just like, no excuses, mate. Like, Yan just was the better fighter tonight. But then Merab was kind of like, I tried to do entertaining fight for you. And I was like, it's kind of a little bit of an excuse. Like, what, you're not like trying to fight the way you normally fight. Merab fought the exact same way that he always fights. So, look, if he was trying to be entertaining, in his head, so be it. But it didn't work for him. But I don't think that's what it was. It was just Yan was so much improved, had such a good game plan. The body work was there all day, and that's what won him the fight, in my opinion. Plus, he busted him up. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to reevaluate my life choices after that one. But hey, I'm hyped for it, and that trilogy is gonna sell big numbers, because not only was it like a sick performance, it was a crazy fight as well. There was heaps of blood, there was damage, there was big shots landed. Merab did hurt Yan a couple of times as well, but nothing as significant or meaningful as what Yan was able to do to him. So, mate, I'm stoked with that fight. What a great, awesome way to end an insane card. Let's go now to the co-main event, and Joshua Van is the new flyweight champion of the UFC. It did not go how I thought it went, but hey, I called round 1 TKO for Joshua Van. No, I'm not claiming that as a pick, boys. Absolute, sad scenes for Pantoja. I fucking got nervous for this pick, hey. It was a pretty risky pick. Pantoja walked out to 50 cent, many men, and I was like, oh man, we're in trouble here. Joshua Van they meet in the middle, and they box a bit early. I think there was 8 shots landed by Pantoja apparently, and 1 for Van. It didn't look like that was correct, and then I think Pantoja threw a kick, and Joshua Van sort of catches it and throws him down. And as he throws him down, Pantoja sticks his arm out to catch himself, and just lands at an awkward angle on his arm and breaks his arm. The snap was sickening, bro. No follow-up needed at all. He was kind of laying on the ground, just going like, nah, man, like, we're done. Like, we're done here. Look, and respect to Joshua Van, he didn't follow up. He didn't need to. And it's a round 1 TKO for Joshua Van. Like I said it would be. I'm completely goated at predictions. Nah, but for real, what a fucking wild sport we have here. Absolute scenes, boys. Joshua Van wins the belt in under a minute by throwing one strike, and he wins by TKO. Like I said would happen. Look, couldn't have gone any better for Joshua Van. I feel so bad for Pantoja, but I'm pretty stoked for Joshua Van. Insane stuff. The Pantoja era comes to an end because Joshua. This is what will be said in the history books. The Pantoja era came to an end because Joshua Van, the smallest flyweight champ ever, out-grappled him, threw him down with complete disregard, and finished him by TKO in round 1. That's what will be written in the history books, lads. Fuck, I would be so pissed if I had money on Pantoja. So it's heavy days for the cannibal. I do love Pantoja. That's a really rough way for him to go out. Speedy recovery to him. He probably will be back to fight for his belt, but I don't know when. It could be a career-ending injury, to be honest. We see that some of these guys are never the same after these big injuries, like Connor and Anderson Silva. So it's a brutal sport that we've got here. But Joshua Van is the new flyweight champ. What a time to be alive. Bedtime's going to be bloody losing his shit. Tatsuro Taira was out there waiting for him. They're going to put that one on next. I reckon it's Tatsuro Taira versus Joshua Van. Put it on next weekend's Apex card, bro. Like both the guys didn't take any damage, so that fight should get booked pretty soon. Hopefully they add that to one of the big cards. Maybe they chuck it on the Australia card. Would be sick. I doubt it, but they probably will put it on the next, like the April pay-per-view or something, because they don't like turning guys around real quick. But give Joshua Van some time to bask in his glory. Like, it's a bit of a Aljo Air like title win, to be honest, like a fake bit of a hoax of a title win. But hey, it's nothing. He didn't do anything wrong. At least he didn't like carry on the ground like Aljo did. He just fought his fight and Pantoja broke his arm and it's a TKO. So the new era of flyweight is upon us, and I'm pretty ready for it. Tatsuro Taira, we'll talk about him now. Brandon Moreno, Tatsuro Taira. I picked Tatsuro Taira by split decision. It was going pretty well how I called it. I said that Moreno would have a round, probably the first one, and do well, and then Taira would take over the fight and start working his submission game and his ground game and stuff. It was an interesting fight. I said on my notes here that Tatsuro Taira looked like an Asian Paddy Pimblett. And I was thinking like, we don't get knocked out. Fucking hell, Tatsuro Taira was pisser on the mic, but we'll go round by round because it was an interesting 2-round fight. Very, very strange looking dudes, both of them. I called it right. Like, Moreno was doing his like weird mewing thing that he does, and then Tatsuro Taira's got a strange style as well. But anyway, Tatsuro Taira goes for a takedown, like feint takedown combo, feint takedown, like into the takedown combo, and it was pretty sick. Like, he did it a couple of times, but Moreno, he kind of got it, but Moreno reversed him and then got into full mount and latched up a triangle-looking thing, and he kind of had him against the cage and had his legs up over his neck, and it was pretty in. And Joe Rogan was fucking wanking his dick off, and he was going, "Oh, you got to get out of there!" Like, it's in. But Taira was just calm and methodically worked his way out of it. He was in danger though, and he did like a little mini slam, and then Joe Rogan was like, "You got to get out of there! Like, you can't slam a guy. You're going to go deeper." But Moreno spent pretty much the whole round after that just trying for that triangle. I think he knew that was his one chance. The ref did some weird shit. He came in and was like, "Get to work, boys!" Like, while Moreno's got a fully locked in triangle. Like, you got to let that shit go on. He was saying, like, go to work, buddy. Like, you can't do that while they've got a potentially fight-ending sequence, even if it's stalled out and the crowd's booing. That he's in a potentially winning the fight sequence. There's no way that they should have clapped that on. Anyway, Tatsuro Taira eventually gets out with 15 seconds to go. He lands a few good shots, but it was a hard round to score. Like, I think you give it to Moreno, but potentially a 10-10. Like, nothing really happened apart from just the takedown and then the kind of semi-submission threat. But it did matter because in round 2, they box on the feet a bit. Tatsuro Taira uses his striking. Like, his striking actually looks pretty good and improved, I reckon. He trips Moreno down and gets the takedown. And there was a bit of a scramble, but Moreno is so smooth and slick as butter, like smooth as butter on the back. And we've seen him do that in some other fights as well, like I think against Perez and stuff. He's just got such good jiu-jitsu flow, and he moves from position to position so cleanly. He got to the back of Moreno with the hooks in, and then he's on mount and he flattens him out and lands some huge shots with Moreno covering up on the ground, and the ref calls it by TKO. Like, it could have been. I can see the argument for saying it was a bit early, and the commentators were feeding him. Hey, they were like, early stoppage, like, that's bullshit. They were all having a whinge about it. But in my opinion, if the fight went for another 10 seconds, it would have been over anyway. Like, it was, Moreno was in a quitting position. He was head down, flattened out completely. Tatsuro Taira with the unbreakable body lock on him, and he was just wailing shot after shot, and they were landing, like, some of them were landing big. Eventually they would have got him on the temple and knocked him out. So I thought the ref did his job there and saved a bit of damage for Moreno. And Moreno, like, gets up and he's like, really? And I was like, yeah, really, bro? Like, that's... You got knocked out, and that's it. And there's nothing much you can argue with there. And if you didn't get knocked out, you were about to get knocked out. So it's one of those, like, Izzy Pereira type ones where, like, maybe they could have let it go a little bit longer, but the outcome was the same. Great performance from Tatsuro Taira. He is next up for the title, and he deserves to be next up for the title. And I'm excited for that fight. He's the next iteration of flyweights. He's had his setback. He's rebuilt back up. He's looked good. Give him the title fight against Joshua fucking Van, boys. He's funny on the mic too. He's like, nice to meet you, everybody. I'm very happy, thank you. Like, it's so funny. And I just noted there as well, dude, and this is a common thread throughout this card, shut the fuck up, Joe Rogan. Still glazing Moreno in his Taira interview. Like, just fuck this ancient casual unk off. I'm so sick of Rogan on the cards. He's just get him out of there. I've had a gutful. He's so biased. He's so shit and cringe and predictable. Anyway, speaking of cringe, Henry Cejudo's retirement fight against Peyton Talbott was an absolute banger, and this card just kept going, getting better and better and better and better, man. It feels a bit weird going backwards, but just at this point, the hype was already there, and this fight was chef's kiss, boys. It was so sick, man. Peyton Talbott looked like he had and used every inch of that 6.5-inch reach advantage. That's pretty wild at bantamweight, but that's, Henry Cejudo's a natural flyweight. What a fight, but boys, it was so sick. Peyton Talbott gets it done, 30-27 decision, pieces up Cejudo, busts him up. He looked pretty similar to how Merab looked at the end of the fight. There was some hilarious moments in this fight as well. Like, there was, Talbott dropped Cejudo straight away. He actually took Cejudo down first, and as soon as he lands on him, Cejudo's on his back, and Talbott's like clip farm and going, yeah, like, I got him. Weird, because we all thought that Peyton Talbott was shit at wrestling, and I think Cejudo's wrestling is overrated, but I still think that's a good feather in his cap. And you could see that Peyton Talbott looked improved, and I was impressed with his performance. And he just did more damage than Cejudo. Landed big uppercuts, knees, combos. Got him down again a couple of times. Cejudo's a dog, but he took heaps of shots. He kept throwing back. He put a few on Talbott as well, but Talbott just flowed, and it was a great performance from him. He is back in the mix for sure. And even though it's only Henry Cejudo, and it's a retired Henry Cejudo, it's still Henry Cejudo. And Talbott, look, if he had to just mollywop Cejudo and knock him out, maybe you'd be like, oh, who knows? Like, he's still a bit uncertain. But the fact that he out-grappled Cejudo, he was composed, he was calm, he pieced him up, he was clean, he had some good jiu-jitsu moments. Like, it was a nice performance from Peyton Talbott. And look, Henry Cejudo, respect to him, we bagged the fuck out of him, but he's a legend. He's done plenty in the UFC and outside the UFC. He deserves his flowers. Like, unbelievable heart. That's not, like, you can never take that away from Cejudo. He's got a great ticker on him, and he never quits, and he's impossible to finish. That's why I picked Peyton Talbott by decision here, because I just knew that Cejudo he's so hard to finish. Look, I had it for fight of the night at first. It could have been still, but I don't know. There's probably like 4 different fights that could have been fight of the night, and it's hard to compare them. Like, you talk about Ewo versus Ebo a bit later, but it was. I call this to be a passing of the torch for Cejudo, and that's what it was. And look, I think for once they actually did the retirement package really well. Probably one of the best ones I've ever seen. So good stuff from the UFC. They honoured Cejudo. It did feel a little bit forced. Like, I think the UFC made the decision for Cejudo to retire, but maybe not. But it's his time, and he kind of got down at the end of the fight on his ground, pieced up, like, busted up, bleeding all over the place, kneeled down in front of Dayton White and goes, "Yep, it's time. This proves that it's time." But I respect the way that he was fully respectful to Peyton Talbott, gave him his flowers, shouted him out, said, look, this guy is the future, and I think he is. So Peyton Talbott completely back in the mix there. He'll take Cejudo's top 10 ranking, and I'm keen to see what his next fight is as well. Jan Blachowicz versus Bogdan Guskov. Look, I picked Jan Blachowicz by late rounds TKO, but I was pretty worried because Anik announced right at the start of the fight that Jan Blachowicz's shoulder was fucked and he had to stop doing weights in the camp because his shoulder was completely cooked. So, yeah, that had me a little bit sus on that. But Yan Blachowicz did good, man. And look, they ended up going to a majority draw. It was round 2 that was the deciding round. Yan Blachowicz wins round 1. He wins round 3 as well. It was pretty even until Yan Blachowicz dropped Guskov right at the end of the fight. I think Yan Blachowicz won the fight overall, but in round 2, Bogdan Guskov sat down Yan Blachowicz with a mad straight shot that just sat him on his ass, and then he got on top and pounded away with elbows for the rest of the round. Was it a 10-8? I don't know. One judge thought it was. Two judges thought it was. One judge thought it wasn't. Me personally, I don't think it was, but I'm not going to bitch and moan and complain if you think it was. I think it was somewhere there or thereabouts, and it kind of exposes the situation of 10-8s and, like, it's such an arbitrary, like, subjective kind of decision about whether something's a 10-8 or not. I'd be interested to see if there's any solutions. Maybe if you know a better way to score a 10-8, chuck it down in the comments. I know that the rules say that it's like if there's a almost fight-ending sequence or if there's complete domination. And look, it was very dominant from Guskov, but it wasn't complete domination for the whole round. And Yan was defending himself the whole time and landing some shots back from the bottom. So, yeah, he busted him up. He hurt Yan bad. He had him bleeding, but I don't know. It's pretty tricky. So I think Yan won the fight overall, but I've got to say, a draw is... I'm not too upset with a draw as a result because it was a good performance from both guys, and they both deserved to win, kind of thing. Not really, but yeah, I'm not gutted about that one. Yan Blachowicz looked pretty good, man. I was surprised. He's a fucking ancient unk, and he's not too far from retirement, I don't reckon. But he took on a scary up and coming guy with momentum in Bogdan Guskov, and he did really well. So that was sick. Well done to both of those guys. Look, it's a draw. I'm taking that pick in my heart though. Yan was the winner in our hearts, I would say. So, yeah, we'll call that one a draw. We'll chuck it on the record as a draw. A headline in the prelims was Manuel Torres versus Grant Dawson. I picked Manuel Torres by round 1 KO, and I nailed this one, boys. I said in my prediction video that while Grant Dawson is really good and he's got the skills and he's got the wrestling and this and that, and if he fights his fight and has his grappling domination, it's going to be one-way traffic. But I said that Torres is so dangerous that in order for Grant Dawson to win this, he has to be perfect for 15 minutes or he just has to get a takedown early at the start of each round and just hold Manuel Torres there. So, unfortunately, Grant Dawson thinks he's fucking Canelo. Because, no, look, he failed to take down early, which discouraged him a bit, and it looked really easy for Manuel Torres to shuck it off. And Manuel Torres looked a bit more patient than he normally does at the start, which was probably because he was feeling a bit, a certain way about the wrestling threat and the grappling threat. But once he felt the power of Dawson in terms of his takedown and he shucked him off, he started just throwing mad kicks and landing combos. And then neck minute, round 1, Dawson slips down to throw like an overhand and Torres lands a quick 4-piece combo, like a bloody McGregor-Alvarez kind of combo, punctuated by an overhand to the temple and then a nasty uppercut that dropped Dawson into the fetal position, and like he did against Bobby Green kind of thing, and it was over. And it looked like Grant Dawson's nose was broken, and Manuel Torres gets it done by round 1 KO. That was a sick pick, that one, because I thought that a lot of people were picking Grant Dawson. I think they were. Sick finish for Torres, and he's a problem at lightweight there for sure. Another completely wild, epic, fucking hilarious fight was Terence McKinney versus Chris Duncan. What a fight this one was. Look, I had I had Duncan locked by KO. He ends up getting it done by submission, but it was a pity submission basically, and the ref should have stopped it by TKO. But anyway, look, round 1, Chris Duncan comes out looking asleep. I was worried. I was like, McKinney started so fast and Duncan didn't match his pace and he was getting backed up early. McKinney hit him with a nasty knee. Well, it kind of landed, but it looked like it rocked Duncan immediately. He poured it on him and Duncan was completely shell-shocked, covering up against the cage. McKinney piecing him up, but Duncan managed to survive somehow. He got a takedown, I think a single leg, and then he got the reset. And then he landed a couple of straight shots on his own that kind of tagged and got McKinney's attention as well. they started going to war, and it was just such a chaotic, crazy fight. The crowd was loving it. And then Duncan tags McKinney with a short, tight elbow that dropped him, basically KO'd him and shut his lights out. But the ref didn't stop it. And McKinney was completely cooked up against the cage and in a fetal position as well. And Duncan was just not throwing enough power on his shots. He landed a few all right ground and pound shots, but he was so half rock still, Duncan, and he seemed gassed already. And he was just going, boogie, 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 like just landed little tiny little tapping shots to the head. And the ref's kind of going like you know, when the crowd's booing and there's nothing happening in the fight and they got him up against the cage and the ref's like, come on, boys, like, you know, get it going, improve your position. He was doing that like in a potentially KO sequence. It seemed a bit strange, but it was. I can understand why, because Duncan was not hitting him hard enough for it to be a TKO, but McKinney wasn't defending himself properly either and not really moving. It was kind of a little bit like that Hamzat DDP situation where like everyone's like, whoa, he's like punching him in the head 100 times, but he's just going boom, 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 like this, like a bloody big brother with his little brother down, just smacking him like and not wanting to get in trouble from mum. But yeah, it was a bit of a strange one. But then eventually Duncan realised he hasn't got the gas to completely TKO McKinney and he's like, oh, I'll just, like, his smart, intelligent brain took over and he realised McKinney was cooked and anything that he chucked around his neck would probably finish him. So he rolls over and latches up a Darce choke and McKinney taps before it's even in. McKinney was ready to quit. He was just waiting for the ref to wave it off, but he didn't. So he was like, oh, thank fuck, and he tapped. So it was fucking cinema, this fight as well. It was unbelievable. One of the funniest, weird, like strange, epic, action-packed fights that I've seen in a long time as well. And look, credit to both these guys. They're action fighters. McKinney's always in a sick fight, so I'll always be watching his fights. Duncan wins by Darce choke in round one in an absolute fucking schmozzle of a fight. And Chris Duncan's a G, man. People don't know what I'm capable of. He's cool as. I like him. He walked out to bagpipes. Yeah, he's a sick fighter. Got one of me locks at least. 1 out of 2. Macy Barber versus Karine Silva. Look, I picked Karine Silva by submission. I didn't put a lot of thought into it. Look, Macy Barber looked pretty good. It was a pretty actually entertaining fight, this one as well. Back and forth. Macy Barber looked sharp on the feet early and a little bit bigger, but Karine Silva was tapping low kicks and countering well as well. She got a takedown and got back position up against the cage, did well to maintain it, and then got the hooks in and worked the choke. And I was just thinking, here we go, boys, like rear naked choke for Karine Silva. And the whole time, Macy Barber's bloody big fake bolt-ons are jiggling around like crazy, and Silva was punching her in the tits and shit, so that was interesting to watch. Karine Silva hunted for the choke for the rest of the round. She got a bit of a face crank at one point, but Macy Barber ended up spinning around on top and just went to work at the end of round one, landed some big bombs and elbows. That was pretty sick. Macy Barber's got pretty good ground and pound, and I don't know who won that round one. Look, it doesn't matter. It's insignificant in the end, but because I think Macy Barber won rounds 2 and 3. But look, I said that round one was still going to Silva, but I wouldn't argue with you if you said that that the damage from Barber at the end won the fight, because she was landing all right at the start as well. Round 2, some interesting shit happened. Macy Barber tries to jump a guillotine early in the round, ends up on top, and then kind of as she sort of rolls away to like reset, Karine Silva throws an illegal up kick and it glances on Macy Barber's chin and hits her. And Macy carried on like fucking Rodolfo Bellato in there and like sort of fake being wobbled. Like she did the same thing as Bellato did, where got kicked in the head and it hit the chin, but it wasn't devastating. And then she gets up and goes, oh, what the hell, ref? And then goes, like a fucking Kute Laba against Ankalaev. Like, and then realised, oh, no, I'm not doing this. And then just kind of walks over to the side of the cage and bungs it on for a bit. And look, the ref comes up and goes, are you all good? Like, what's going on? She goes, yeah, I'm just a little bit dizzy, but I'm okay. She didn't know whether to bloody pull a Kevin Holland or not. But DC the whole time was carrying on about taking a point and resetting the position, but didn't seem like that big of a deal. People throw up kicks all the time and don't get penalised for it. I think it was a second one, but the first one wasn't too bad. So, look, the fight restarts and Macy Barber was cranky. She was fired up and she just took her straight down and started pounding away. On her back, landed big ground and pound shots. I thought it was going to be finished at that point. 12-6 elbows. And I was like, what the fuck is Karine Silva doing at this point? She was not defending the ground and pound, but choosing instead to elbow the thigh of Macy Barber. Very extremely low fight IQ from Karine Silva. And then Macy Barber just manhandled her for the rest of the fight. They got tangled up in some really weird positions. fair bit of good camera work getting done there. And then Kareem Silva attacks a triangle from the back and got onto a dominant position but ran out of time at the end of round 2. So it was 1-1 going into the third. And then Macy Barber wins round 3. What was it with? She had I can't even fucking remember. I think she had a triangle at one point. Silva had a triangle. Joe Rogan was fucking nerding out with his jiu-jitsu as he did the whole card. He was in peak fucking dog shit form, this card, Joe Rogan. Kareem Silva gasses out and Macy Barber wins round 3. So I gave it 29-28 to Barber. But 30-27, don't know about that. Look, who cares? What the fuck? 30-27 is a pretty shit card. But the right girl won the fight, and yeah, Joe Rogan pissed me off in that fucking fight. I hope Paramount Plus fire him eventually. Nazim Sadykhov versus Faraz Ziam. That was a pretty decent performance from Faraz Ziam. He's put himself back on the map there. Sadykhov just had nothing for him. Ziam got his back and just sat on the back and threatened to choke for most of round 1 and kind of frustrated Sadykhov. And then round 2, Faraz Ziam fucking schooled him. He pieced him up at range, landed kicks, made him miss, tagged him plenty of times, won all the wrestling and clinch exchanges. He looked big and long and lanky. And right at the end of round 2, Faraz Ziam just put some mustard on him, had him up against the cage, landed 2 huge elbows over the top that sat Nazim down. Nazim turtled up and Ziam pounced on him and just finished the fight with ground and pound. It was interesting, though, because it was right at the horn, and the horn went while he was still pounding away, and then after a second after the horn went, Herzog waved it off, but then they called it a TKO, which I didn't have a problem with. They called it a TKO at 4:59 of round 1, which was interesting because it definitely didn't call the fight before the end of the round, but it was a TKO. I wasn't too upset with that, but I'm sure some people will have a bee in their bonnet about that one as well. Still just another one of those weird refereeing things that's happened in the last few cards. Look, good win from Faraz Ziam. He looked unreal in there, I must say. Way bigger and longer and more skillful and more tools than Nazim Sadykhov. So Faraz Ziam's back in the mix. Not sure why I didn't pick him. I just don't know. Anyway, Marvin Vettori versus Bruno Ferreira. Typical late career fall off Marvin Vettori performance. I can just say Marvin Vettori did the exact same as what he did in his last few fights, and you blokes should know exactly what he did. Just goofed around in the cage, just eating shots, getting tagged, doing fuck all. Yeah, and Bruno Ferreira wasn't that impressive either. Like, it was a decent fight, but it was just Marvin Vettori's got a good chin, cool, and that's about it. There was a couple of shots that Vettori landed, but Bruno Ferreira was just doing the better work. Look, it wasn't a bad fight at all. It just kind of got overshadowed by other fights. It was actually pretty entertaining, but Vettori's just got to be one of the lowest IQ fighters of all time. Like, he had him wobbled at one point and just did nothing with it. Just sat there and took pictures and just like fucking, I don't know what's going on in that big fucking orc head of Marvin Vettori. I reckon his IQ must be somewhere in the negative 200s because he's one of the dumbest fighters of all time. He's got extreme autism plus an intellectual fucking disability. He cannot read body language at all. Doesn't understand when his opponent's hurt and when to pour it on him. He's got the best chin of all time, which should make him an elite fighter, but he's got one of the lowest fight IQs and general IQs in UFC history. Maybe I'll make a video about that. Top 10 most retarded fighters of all time. Spoiler alert, Marvin is number 1. Anyway, good win for Bruno Ferreira. I dropped that pick. Picks were pretty shit anyway, by the way. Look, Jalen Turner versus Edson Barboza. This was a massacre. And look, I knew Jalen Turner would win this fight, but I coin flipped it just because Turner's such a flaky dude. It flipped Edson Barboza. I was not all that impressed with that. I was going to pick Turner, but I just didn't have the respect for him. So, look, something happened early in the fight. A tight elbow from Jalen Turner, I think, split Edson Barboza. Starts pissing out blood immediately. Then Jalen Turner sat him down and almost finished him straight away. Barboza was rocked all over the place. Turner just pours it on, starts looking really, really good, like not going crazy with it, just picking his shots. Nice, tight, straight, clean shots. But it was easy for him to do that because Barboza was giving him nothing. He was just covered in blood, backing up, falling over and stumbling against the cage. The ref should have stopped the fight before that because Turner was just walking this old unk down, landing these shots, absolutely no defence, covered in blood, getting destroyed. And it was a nasty round 1 finish by Jalen Turner. Very yucky to watch. I didn't feel good watching that one, to be honest. So fuck you to the coin. There goes me bloody sick Kyoji Horiguchi coin flip from last week, and the coin strikes me again, and it ends up perfectly balanced, as all things should be. Iwo versus Ebo, bro. Holy fucking shit. This fight was pure fucking violence. Iwo knocked him down 4 times in under 2 minutes and TKO'd him. Probably the craziest one-round fight of all time that I can think of. Where do I even start with this fight? They both chinned each other to the fucking shadow realm inside the first 2 minutes. It was insanity. I've never seen anything like it. Both guys slept each other and then woke back up like zombies. I thought both guys were done multiple times in this fight. I reckon this fight should go in the Hall of Fame. Put it straight in there. The ratio of violence to time spent in the actual cage was unmatched. I've never seen anything like it. Pure mayhem. Look, the only fight I could compare it to is like Chet Congo versus Pat Barry. It was right up there with that shit. So that's high praise. This fight right here was why we love the UFC. No other sport will ever make me feel the way that this fight made me feel. It was a feast of violence, a smorgasbord of destruction. It was epic. I love this fight, man. Please, I reckon, look, it was too inconclusive. Run it back, put it on the White House card. These boys need to go round 2. I'd love to see it. I'd watch this fight every single weekend. Fucking hell. Poor Ebo Aslan, man. He's had a rough run in the UFC, but look, Ebo, it's hard to say if he's good or if he's decent at all. He's obviously got heavy hands. He's got a chin. It's a complete fucking random fight, this one, but it was so good. It just got the whole card started up and going hard. So shout out these boys. I hope they get 50K. Surely they will. Antonio Trocoli versus Mansour Abdul-Malik was over in round 1 as well. I picked Mansour Abdul-Malik by TKO in round 2. I paid this motherfucker some coin to do a bit of damage to this bloke. I want my money back, bro. He did fuck all damage. Look, he went in and got a big athletic takedown, which is like exactly how I said the plan was going to go. I said he's going to take him down, bust him up with elbows, let him get to round 2, then do the same thing and finish him. But man, Mansour looked like he had the fucking something to do after the fight, eh? Because he just grabbed his head, latched up a gilly like immediately, and Trocoli taps. So this Trocoli bloke, as I said, no one fucking likes broccoli. Nothing special about that fight at all, but Mansour Abdul-Malik is an animal, bro. He's going to be a problem at middleweight. I reckon he should fight Kelvin Gastelum, put him in there against Atiba Gautier. Something like that would be sick. But yeah, good shit from Mansour Abdul-Malik. He's going to be a problem at middleweight, and Trocoli's probably going to get cut. Then the first fight of the card was Myron Santos versus Muhammad Naimov. Pretty boring fight to start with, but it wasn't that bad. The bloody commentators were into him within like 2 minutes saying, this fight sucks. It was like, bro, it's the first fight on the card. Like, they're working into it. Like, chill out. Anyway, it was a bit dull the first 2 rounds. And then round 3, they meet in the middle and Myron Santos just lands a straight 1-2 down the pipe. Sits down Naimov, flash KOs him, and he just curls up into a ball and it's done. It was a really nice looking fight ending sequence. I did say that Myron Santos would get a highlight reel KO. I thought it might have been like a step back KO or something. I called it pretty well, and I said we'd be walking away from this fight going, Myron Santos is a prospect here at featherweight. He's 4-0 in the UFC now. I reckon look out for this guy. Call this one well. But the wanker was on his IG, on his phone, live streaming the fight decision at the end of the fight. I was just like, fucking TikTok kids, man. That annoyed me a little bit. But hey, Myron Santos, good shit from him. So look, that was exhausting to even brain dump that card, boys. I could be talking about this card for another 2 hours. It's already been 40 minutes. I'm going to leave you with it, but I'm going to just let everyone process that mayhem. I need to go have a bloody lie down or something after that. That was one of the coolest, most entertaining cards of my life, and I've been watching every single card for 10, 15 years. Great way to end the ESPN era. Like, what a sick note to end on. Merab finally gets stopped. Not stopped, but, shut down by Petr Yan. Petr Yan turns it around. Joshua Van's the new champ. The UFC's got some crazy new storylines. Flyweight's back in action. We've got a sick trilogy set up at bantamweight. Yeah, boys, I don't think this card could have gone much better, and I'm stoked about it. But yeah, fucking crazy stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed the content this week. The picks were pretty arse. I think I went like 7, 5, and 1 or something. I'm going to kind of take the Blachowicz one. I thought Blachowicz sort of won that fight. Let's call it 8 and 5. Not my best week of picks, but pretty solid. And there was plenty of upsets. And look, I went for a few dogs this week, and they didn't cash. Like, fucking Vettori was a pretty shit pick. But yeah, enjoyed the card, lads. Hope you guys did too. Let's bloody debrief and unpack this shit over the next couple of weeks, eh? Like the video, follow on Instagram, comment down below what was your favourite fight of the night, and I'll see you on the next one. Punch on!